Hello everyone! Welcome to my channel. Welcome to today's video. Today's video is going to be an in-depth look on a new to me indie brand, Arttitude Cosmetics. So I picked up 3 of their palettes over the last couple of months, since November or so. I had yet to try them, so I thought it would be fun to try all 3 at the same time, do a lot of looks with them, figure out what I thought of this brand. So I'm going to share all of my thoughts with you. I have quite a few opinions on this brand and these palettes. So if that sounds good to you, make sure you give this video a thumbs up. Subscribe if you haven't yet. I would love it if you stuck around, but with all that, let's just get into it. All right, so Arttitude Cosmetics kind of started to intrigue me when I saw their Man-Eater palette. It wasn't like the perfect palette for me. And then they came out the Metamorph palette, which was closer, especially the packaging. The packaging was getting me, but it was a little bit colorful. I still might pick that palette up. I'm still debating, but I was just overloaded with eyeshadow palettes at the time. I'm still trying to get through a lot of my untried. Then Vintage Neutral and Urban Neutral came out around holiday time, and I knew I had to pick these up. They just screamed at me, and I knew these were the palettes where I was finally going to try the brand. Then Ink and Roses came out in February as kind of like their Valentine's Day launch. Also love the color story, so I also picked up this one and thought it would be fun to kind of just do a deep dive into this brand. That was the excuse I gave myself to purchase these. Not really, I would have purchased them anyways, but it's just kind of like a 2-for-1. I can do a video on these. I have been trying these for a little over a week now. I've been doing multiple looks every single day, really putting my eyes through the ringer. And I'm ready to share all of my thoughts on these palettes with you. I think we're gonna stick to one palette at a time, and we're gonna go in the order that I tried them. So the first one that I tried is the Vintage Neutrals. I am not like a warm tone lover, but this one just really screamed to me. I don't know what it is. I think maybe I'm converting just a little bit to the warm tone side, not as much over to cool tones. Maybe it's been cool tones for a while. I love that the packaging. I think it is so pretty. And here is what this palette looks like. I don't know. I just really enjoy like the pops of green, the pink there. It just really calls out to me. I'm gonna throw up my swatch photo right about now. This palette retails for $54 US. It has 16 shades, 11 mattes, 2 multi-chromes, 1 duochrome, and then 2 high definition foiled eyeshadows. So that means 11 mattes and 5 shimmers. Definitely a matte heavy palette, but these shimmers are beautiful. So I am going to play my looks kind of off to the side here while I talk about this palette so you can see the different looks that I did. I did 4 looks with this palette total, and I really liked it. I really, really liked it. Now, as far as formula goes, I found the matte formula to be pretty buttery. It does claim that it's a buttery, easy to blend formula, and I really found that a lot really on the drier side, especially like this Kelly green here. You can really see just how dry that is. There's no kick up in the pan, and it does start out pigmented, but you can blend it out. So you can really make the shade, the depth, and the intensity that you want. And then as far as the shimmers go, there are some of those more flaky textured shimmers that I'm not like a super big fan of. Retro being one, Glamour being another, Retrograde kind of being one. This out of the 3 palettes, I think have the more flaky shimmers, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but you definitely want to make sure you use a glitter glue. You want to make sure you use a glitter glue with all the shimmers. I will say there was a lot of fallout. When I'm doing my looks, I'm not using a glitter glue only because a lot of the times I am doing the look, wiping it off, doing another look. So adding a glitter glue is just gonna mess up my eyes a little bit more. And there was some fallout. I had a lot of fun with this palette. I really like the tones of warmth that they did. I think that it was really well done. I will say my only kind of con is I think these two greens here, while they look different on camera and in the swatch, I think on the eye, they're a little bit too similar. This is definitely more of like a Kelly green, and this is more of a forest green. They are different greens, but I just found them to be a little bit too much the same on the eye and like a tiny, tiny bit redundant, but I'm really nitpicking here on the formula. The rest of these, I think, were quite different, quite unique. I liked using the pink. I think that was my fourth look, like the pink all over the lid with the green on the lower lash line and then this pink shimmer on the bottom. I think this palette, typically with special shimmer shadows, I find that simpler is best. Now, maybe I'm using more shades than I typically would on a day-to-day basis, but I'm not trying to go overboard with my looks. I definitely do use more matte shades than I would, though, typically every day, if that's making sense. Overall, like this is, I think, out of the three, my number one favorite palette. I very much enjoyed it. I had no formula issues and really, really liked it. Now we're gonna go to Urban Neutrals. That was the second palette that I tried. And I would have thought, like when they were sneak peeking these palettes, I really thought that this was going to be my favorite. This is before the Ink and Roses came out, between the two. But for some reason, I wasn't as drawn to this color story. Now, I will say I still like the color story. So let me throw up my swatch photos. This, again, retails for $54 US with 16 shades. Again, it has 11 mattes, 1 holochrome in this palette, 2 duochromes, and then 2 foiled eyeshadows with extra sparkle. This one, as far as like those textured flaky shimmers, you only have this one, this Penthouse here, but you know, again, still going to want to use a glitter glue. The rest of these can cause quite the fallout. This is the palette that I'm wearing today. As you see my looks, you'll notice there's only 3 looks. So it only took me 3 looks to do No Pan Left Behind on this palette. So I decided to do a 4th one today. That way it was 4 looks with each palette. And while I would say this is ranked number 3 out of the ones I'm going to talk about today, I still very much enjoyed this palette. This palette, and I can't verify this, I'm only speaking on my experience, the mattes were different than Vintage Neutral. I found all the mattes in this palette to be more of a creamy matte, like a cream to powder. Again, cannot verify, can only speak from what I'm experiencing and what I'm noticing. But because of that, I think if you have textured eyelids, it can look a little bit heavy on the lid and they don't blend as well as the Vintage Neutrals. So I'm hoping that I'm at least correct and I'm noticing correctly. It would be odd if it was the same matte formula, but especially like these light shades, they just have swatches all over my hands. They just are thicker and not as dry and buildable as the Vintage Neutral. Now, I do very much love the shimmers in this palette. I think that they're probably my favorite shimmers out of all 3 palettes, but cohesively as a color story, I'm still putting it as number 3. I'm not necessarily a blue lover, but I do like this like steel tone kind of blue here. It's manageable for me. It's not that really big, bright pop primary blue, so I can incorporate this into looks. I don't know if I'll use this Penthouse shade as much as maybe like some other shimmers in this palette. Today I'm wearing Metropolis, I'm wearing, what is this called? Streets, and then I'm wearing Downtown, these 3 here. Pretty simple eye look. Like I said, I really enjoy the incorporation of this light tone matte here instead of just having this gray. I feel like you can kind of pull in some warmth. But because it is a little bit more creamy, I just found it to be just a little bit muddy on my eyes. I don't know, maybe that's just me, but the mattes is kind of what pushes this down to the number 3 spot. Again, kind of the same complaint as Vintage Neutrals as well, with this deep dark matte and this deep dark matte. While this is like a very dark navy blue, and this is pretty much a black, I just don't know if we needed both in the palette. But also keep in mind, like I am gearing more towards lighter shades. I don't go that dark and smoky with my eye looks very, very often. So for me, it's a little bit redundant, but if you really enjoy like a dark, smoky, grungy eye, you might like the two differences in those deep dark mattes. My favorite shimmer by far is this City shade. This is the holographic that they were talking about that you saw on the swatches. So stunning. You can see the holographic. When a shadow claims to be holographic, I don't always think that it translates. Like you can see the holographicness in person, but I don't think it always translates to other people or on camera. And this one, I think it does. It's one of my favorite holographics that I've ever tried. It doesn't hurt that it's kind of like this lilac holographic. Very much enjoyed it. My only complaint is, like I said, the mattes just seemed a little bit tougher for me. Next, we have the Ink and Roses. I did not purchase this one at the same time as the other two, but it came out for Valentine's Day. I just could not resist. I think this is so beautiful. So beautiful. I love the artwork. And this is what the palette looks like. Now this palette, while you're looking at my swatches, is a little bit less expensive. It's $47, still 16 shades, and there's actually more shimmers in this palette. There's 9 mattes, 3 foiled eyeshadows, 2 duochromes, and then 1 iridescent metallic shimmer. The reason why it's a little bit less expensive is because you don't have a multi-chrome like the Urban Neutrals and Vintage Neutrals. What Arttitude Cosmetics opted to do instead, which I don't know if I love or not, is they decided to do some multi-chrome singles as part of this collection, but not inside the palette in order to bring down the price point. For me personally, we're talking about $7 extra. $7 extra to me. I would rather have the one multi-chrome because realistically, I'm not going to purchase those singles. While they are beautiful, I will throw up a photo of the swatches of those multi-chromes. I'm not going to purchase any single shadows because they don't come in handy for me. I just don't use them. I just don't use them. As pretty as they are to look at, as much as like the little raccoon in me, the crow in me wants to collect them, I don't use them, and it's not... It ends up going to waste, and that hurts my heart even more. So I don't know. For me personally, would have rather seen it in the palette, but that's okay. Now, as far as flaky shimmers go, you have Ink, you have Inkwell, and Whisper, Borderline Secrets, but still, like the rest of these, very glitter glue. Now, the mattes for these, while you're kind of seeing my looks on the side here, were like half and half. So I'm very just confused on the matte formula for Arttitude Cosmetics because the lighter shades, specifically this parchment shade, feels like that creamy matte formula, the cream to powder. But then like the dark shade, like Wilted and Thorn, those don't feel so thick and creamy on the lids. Personally, I like the drier formula better. I just find it easier to blend. And you can really control how much depth and intensity you get with a drier formula. So I hope that in the future, Arttitude Cosmetics kind of sticks with the Vintage Neutral palette where the mattes are a little bit drier. Maybe it has to do with the colors. Some colors are easier to make than others. I really have no idea. I don't know anything about makeup formulation. I am not, educated about that. So I can't really say. This sepia one is the only matte out of the 3 palettes that kind of has some shimmer. So if you don't like those kind of sparkly matte formulas, the shade you won't really love, it's fine. You don't really see the shimmer, so it doesn't really bother me. Now, it hurts my heart a little bit to put this in second place because it is so beautiful. I do really, really love this palette. The thing that just bumped it down to the number 2 spot is this is my least favorite shade in the palette, Inkwell. It is just so, it's textured and flaky, so that's already like a point deducted. And then it's like a very, very dark shimmer. That kind of brought this down to second place. The other reason is because of the matte formula. Some of them are creamy, some of them are dry, and the vintage neutrals I just had such an easy time working with. So while like this color story I do love, it is definitely more me. And I think out of the 3 palettes, you see the most variety in colors. You can do the most kind of looks with this palette, like so many different looks, having the greens, having the golds, having the mints, having like the really cool tone purples. I'm sorry if you're hearing my mom's dogs in the other room here, but my mom's out of town and I brought them over on this side so they weren't in her house by themselves, and I think they're playing. But it is my kind of palette, very much so, like me in a palette. As far as like the deep dark mattes, I think this is the only one where I can see why they have the depth in here. Like, yes, you still have some deep mattes, the green and the burgundy here, but I do think they're very much different, where I can at least say it's worth having both in the palette. Whereas the vintage and urban, I don't think so, or I would prefer not to be. But this is beautiful. I have no complaints. This Whisper shade, beautiful. I think my favorite look was using this Blossom shade because it is just so pretty on the eye. It kind of reminded me of the Kema Cosmetics Bougie Boudoir palette, and just how like feminine and pretty I look with these kinds of tones. So still aesthetically my favorite palette, but as far as formula, etc., I'm kind of putting it at number 2. Now that we've talked about all 3 palettes, I've shown you my looks. Let me just kind of do a quick summary on all 3 of these. Now, I'm really happy that I tried this brand. I have no regrets. I will purchase palettes from them in the future. I had so much fun playing with them. I think they do a really nice job of mixing color with neutrals for people like me who maybe don't want too much color all the time. Like, I went pretty neutral today, and I think it's a great brand if you're looking for indie brands to explore. Highly recommend them. I think the palettes are decently priced. You know, they are a little bit up there for indie, around the $50 mark. The only thing that's unfortunate about this brand is that they are a UK-based brand, and because of that, shipping can be quite expensive if you don't live in the UK. So I live in France, and with shipping and customs, it did cost quite a bit more for these palettes. I probably paid around $65 per palette after all is said and done. So that you kind of have to incorporate that into the price. While I hate to do that because it's not something that Arttitude Cosmetics can control, unfortunately, it is something you have to consider. And it's silly too, because if these were $65 palettes and it was free shipping, I maybe would look at it differently. For some reason, it's just kind of like twists your brain a little bit when it's priced that way. But even if you live in the US, the shipping is going to be a little bit more expensive than if you were purchasing a US based brand. So it's something where I can see why people maybe hesitate towards purchasing from them, but I think they're fantastic. I think they're a fantastic brand. I'm going to continue purchasing from them. The Metamorphosis palette continues to live rent-free in my mind. It is a very, very colorful palette. I'm excited to see what Arttitude Cosmetics comes out with in the future. I'm hoping that maybe they explain a little bit more their matte formula. Like, it doesn't just say it has 9 mattes or however many mattes. It actually says which ones are cream to powder and which ones are a normal matte. How Natasha Denona will explain the different formulas on her palettes. That's really my only con though, and that's going to depend on you. If you really, really hate a creamy matte, I don't know if you'll love the formula in these. And they are a little bit more matte heavy. So if you prefer a half and half split to mattes and shimmers, then, or even a shimmer heavy palette, then you won't love these. But I think that the mattes really do complement the shimmers. And for me, being that the shimmers are special shimmers, I want to be able to switch up the mattes to completely change the look, because you can really play into the different undertones of the shimmers when you have different mattes. So I understand why they're doing that. And then, yeah, my last kind of call out is for me personally, like, I'd rather see the multi-chromes in the palette, but maybe if she sold more palettes, if this brand sold more palettes, knocking down the price $7, then who am I to judge if she's going to sell them that way? I don't know if I'll pick up the single shadow. I really want to, but I really can't justify it. If you made it to the end of the video, I do just want to say Arttitude Cosmetics is also kind of doing a logo rebrand, it looks like. So right now on their website, you can get 20% off with the code rebrand off of everything, I think, except for Maneater or anything that has the new logo. This is their new logo here. And you can see like this one has their old logo. So you can get urban neutrals and vintage neutrals for 20% off right now. There are also affiliate codes. I don't have one, but use one. Make sure you're getting some kind of money off if you can. Search for one or just use the rebrand code. That's really all that I have to say. I would love to hear your thoughts down below. Is Arttitude Cosmetics a brand that's on your wish list, an indie brand that you want to try? Did you like my looks? Hopefully you did. I mean, which ones were your favorite? Which ones did you not love? There was that one smoky look that I will never ever do again. I really tried to do, you I'm sure saw it, you know which one I'm talking about, but I really tried to do like a blown out, sexy, smoky eye, and I failed. It's just a look that I need to practice because I don't almost ever do that. I never do that kind of look. It was just something I was doing for fun. It's nice when you kind of just play around with palettes and do multiple looks a day because I'm not worried about if I like the look or not. I'm just having fun and I know I'm going to take it off in 5 minutes. So for me, that's a lot of fun. For a lot of people, I realize like maybe you don't have time for that, but I do. I do have time for that. So I had a lot of fun playing with these palettes. I will continue to look out for whatever Arttitude Cosmetics comes out in the future, but this is where I'm going to leave you all. I hope you're having a great one, and I will see you in my next video. Bye, everyone.